Okay. Yeah. Estoy grabando.
Guys, thanks for this conversation. The last time I saw you was about 3 years ago in this hotel before the Corona Capital Festival.
Yes.
You were wearing a black shirt, a cowboy shirt like the one you have right now. But the world has changed a lot in these 3 years. Socially, economic, and I think there's so much stress around that the art is one of the engines of survival. Leonard Dixit. How do you feel about being one part of the escapes for the people to be in a better shape because of your music?
I think music's always been that, hasn't it? You know, I mean, it was for me when I was a kid. Like music was my way of escaping from the boredom or even more negative sides of being a kid where I grew up. Were you like that with music?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, it was that. It was just a window onto a whole world outside of the suburb of Bradford where I grew up. Yeah, it changed my. Yeah, I mean, just completely opens up your world. You know, so yeah.
And so I understand that, and I understand what you're saying, because music had been like that, always had been like that for me. That music is a way that you do escape from what's not necessarily good in your life at that particular time. Even for me now, when I go on stage, like it is kind of an escape. It's kind of like an escape from just the crap which is going on around about us. Because you know, I read the news and I see what's going on in particular places, and it's depressing. And when I'm on stage, I'm not thinking about any of that, and that's a relief.
Yeah. One musician friend always told me that he makes music because he's like sabotaging the reality, to make another universe for the people and to get over there and to get new ideas to change the world. And I think that you are doing that, but also with some different landscape after the pandemic. How do you feel about making music, composing new lyrics, new songs after all the stress that the world were in about 2 years ago?
Well, one thing I've come to terms with and I've realized myself is that if you have an experience like the pandemic, the last thing I want to do is to write about it, because I don't want to re-experience it for the song. Like I can understand. It's different, I think, from, you know, like if you have some kind of romantic trauma in your life, often writing about it helps you come to terms with it and to comprehend it. I'd rather not use music to do that with something like the political situation or the economic situation that's come about from post-COVID. Yeah, I'd rather create a fantastical world, or write about something else that's deeper.
Yeah. I was thinking when you were saying that there is no novels or no movies about the Spanish flu.
About Spanish food?
About the Spanish flu?
Oh, Spanish flu, right, yeah.
No
oh,
art
interesting.
About that.
Yes, aye.
Something like the one you're saying. Why do we have to repeat all the suffering and all the
Oh, that's interesting.
Events?
That's interesting. Yeah, you're right. It's funny because I didn't really know much about the Spanish flu until the pandemic. I mean, I knew it had been there, but like...
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I think this time around there will be novels about the pandemic and lots of TV shows, because there's just so much more content, for want of a better word, being produced, that there will inevitably be novels about that. But yeah, you're right, I don't know, I can't think of any novels or anything about the Spanish flu off the top of my head.
Do you know why I think one of the main reasons is because the pandemic, and particularly lockdown, was really boring. You know, like, what are you going to write about? Like, so, I sat in my flat and didn't really see anyone. You know, like
I did actually see a really great stand-up show about the lockdown, but Tim Key, a British
Oh
comedian,
yeah.
He was absolutely amazing because he was just like, it was that, basically he took that premise of how tedious it was and just made it into a show, and it was really, really good.
So when you start composing again, which was the point of creativity, of the starting point to do new music?
I guess it never really stopped. Like it's always a continuous thing. You're always kind of like writing, sometimes more intensely than others, and I don't think there are any particular key events which sort of trigger a particular moment of writing. It's just what happens to be going through your mind at any one particular time. Yeah.
There was no like an impasse point. So you were.
There was no what? Sorry.
An impasse. You were continuing on your creativity.
Well, actually, there was like when the first lockdown kind of came, like I felt a little bit just not in the mood for writing. But I don't know whether, because that also coincided with just coming off tour. And I think often when I come straight off tour, the last thing I want to do is write music. I need a bit of time to clear my mind out. And so I think it was just kind of at the same time. So during the first lockdown, I kind of rebuilt my studio. That was kind of a good thing. And then when that was finished, it was like, I might as well use it to make some music.
So you were a handyman, and you, Bob, how was all this time?
Yeah, it was, I mean, there were elements of it that I really liked. I liked having that much time. I mean, we were fortunate enough that I didn't have to, go and work in some kind of like a frontline job where I couldn't stop working.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a lot of time, and I found some things I found difficult. I couldn't normally, if I had a lot of downtime, I would read. I found reading very hard to focus on. So I was going for lots of walks, cooking, listening to music. It was quite nice actually. I set up my record player for the first time in ages, like my actual turntable, and I was actually like physically playing records again for the first time, and that was really nice. I felt like a teenager again in lots of ways. I had so much time, and just to listen to music and sort of potter around.
Mm-hmm. We were talking in the waiting room about the evolution of art and how music has like parallelism with painting. Like for example, Picasso. The people that love Picasso, they were always waiting the new school. And I think it's always the same with music. The people that are listening for your music in this 2022, they are not waiting for another Marine or another The Fallen.
They're
always waiting. Which is the new path that Franz Ferdinand will going on? How did you create or build this new path?
I think the allegory with the painting is very good, because if you look at Picasso and you look at the different periods, they're so different from each other, but you always know it's Picasso. You look at the Cubist period, or you look at the Blue period, you know it's him. I think that's what you need to do as a musician as well. You've got to kind of like make sure your identity stays true. But how do we develop like a new period? I don't know. It's a combination of so many different ideas that will come together at the same time. Often a reaction to what you've just done as well. Like I know that every stage that we've gone through as a band is a bit of kind of like, right, what did we just do? Like let's do, what can we do that's different from that? And I know already in the discussions that we've had about writing and recording and production and arrangement, like a lot of the talk is like, well, what did we do there that we can, what did we do for Always Ascending that we don't want to do this time? It's a reaction against that. Is there anything else I'm missing out there, Paul?
No, I think that's pretty comprehensive. Yeah. Sorry.
But also we have to say that in the case of Picasso, he developed this school because he had to adapt to the reality. He can't paint something hyper real because there is photography. Mm-hmm. So he has to go another path. And I think that also music is adapting to the new times of technology and all the ways that the people could listen to new music.
Yeah, I think also there's a certain contrariness that comes as well. Like rather than trying to compete with photography and be like more real than photography could be, like Picasso went the other way. I think that's often tempting as well with as a musician, because like I feel that so much pop music now is written to please the algorithms of Spotify. I want to do the complete opposite of that. I want to do something that's really contrary and doesn't follow the patterns of pop music. At the same time, like I kind of like see what's happening in alternative music, and I kind of think like, I don't like that, I'm going to do something different, you know, and that's always been the mentality of the band, like, what's around that we don't like, let's do something that's very different from it.
And it's easy to be a rebel to Spotify or TikTok, because right now I know that many musicians are in this quarrel between we want to make our music and we want to make our art, but in the other part is the record companies are saying you have to have some promotion or some marketing in TikTok and do so much posts and something like that.
I mean, I think with all of those things, you have to like understand them and be able to make the distinction between using them rather than being used by them. You know, like taking the pleasure from them. Like when I use Instagram, I've never used TikTok before. Like TikTok seems a bit more for kids. But like in Instagram, I enjoy Instagram. Like I have a laugh with it. Like I put up that picture like the Lucha Libre last night of me with a guy. And it's funny, you know. It's funny. But I see people becoming slaves to it and trying to satisfy it, and yeah, that's, you know, it's like anything that you do in your life. It's like drinking, for example. You know, if you can enjoy drinking, keep doing it. But like if you feel that you've become a slave to it, then you need to stop.
Tell me about the creative process of The Curious. How was the process to make new music and to make the lyrics and to go in that path?
The song Curious?
Yeah, that's right.
So the song Curious came about, I was in France at the time, and I'd written some like kind of instrumental things that I was kind of like jamming on. Like the riffs and the progressions and stuff. It originally started as a thing on the piano, like a really kind of like, then I kind of put it on with a beat and then sort of made this thing. Then I sent it to Julian, who was in Scotland at the time, and he had a bit of a fiddle with it. He added something, and then we sort of sent it back and forward a little bit. First time we've really done that with this kind of lineup. And then I had this idea of like a flash forward. You know how you have flashback in cinema all the time, like a flash forward. On the meet cute, the moment where you meet somebody, having a flash forward and seeing a relationship unfold itself within a split second, and just imagining if as a relationship goes through the inevitable progression from passion to dreary everyday routine and drudgery, whether you're still going to love each other when it gets to that point.
Let me explore two things. First, the process of the imagination of the song. Every time that you wrote a song, is this kind of path to go and to imagine all the story and to encapsulate in 3-4 minutes?
No, not always. Like it's different for different songs. I guess that song started off with a piece of music as well. Sometimes songs will start off with a lyric. Sometimes they'll be both simultaneously. Sometimes they start on the piano. But like, are you talking about lyrically, about the idea of the story? No. So sometimes you're kind of like scrabbling around in the dark, like just trying to find something, and sometimes it's just noises. Sometimes it's just noises. Other times, like you'll write like a whole thing. Sometimes, like it's just an exchange of ideas or a conversation. Like Bob and I will have conversations which end up becoming songs. Like the Universe Expanded, which I think is one of the best songs we've done, kind of came about from that. Darker Than Matinee kind of came from that. Yeah, there are lots of different ways, and sometimes it's a whole conceit. Sometimes it's more abstract. Sometimes it's very personal. Sometimes it's completely not personal at all. Sometimes it's about a third person, like a real person, like Jacqueline or Michael. Sometimes it's about fictional characters like Lois Lane on the last record.
And in the other side, the way that you jam or you go and start to back and forth the idea. I think that in the beginning you were on the same room, and right now you are making that kind of conversation in WhatsApp or in mail. How is it?
No, I mean, right at the beginning, before we'd even had a rehearsal as a band, The Darker the Matinee lyrically came about from emails that we had with each other.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like Bob was in the library at the art school, and I was in a classroom at Anniesland College preparing for a class, you know, yeah. So I don't think there's anything, yeah.
We're a 21st century band, what do you expect?
Yeah.
No, it's it's amazing to see.
But you do things in the room as well, you know, like it's
process,
yeah,
because
yeah.
when you are telling me that it was all about sending emails, I'm curious. Do you have those emails? Do you preserve it?
Didn't you find the Matinee thread?
I found a printout of the email that Bob and I were sending each other, and if you look in the inside sleeve of Hits to the Head, there's a copy of that email in there, so you can see. So it's like an insight into like what that process was like right at the beginning. So, yeah, I don't have the actual email stored digitally, which is interesting. Which I think is very fascinating. It's a fascinating insight into the unsubstantial nature of digital archiving. And I think it's kind of sad, like a lot of things are going to be lost forever. I know a lot of things that I've written and things are going to be lost because I'm not very good at backing up hard drives.
I was thinking about that because, again, going to the Picasso example, well, you have the napkins of Picasso painting. And in this era, yeah, we took 1,000 of photographs and we sent millions of emails or WhatsApp messages. And all are lost. Because we don't have any physical evidence of that.
Yes.
And I think that for such a prolific band like you, I think there are like thousands of ideas that are floating about the digital world.
Yes, no, I agree. I also noticed something else the other day. Like I was writing lyrics, and I always used to write my lyrics longhand. You know, I'd write them out in notebooks. But in recent years, I've started doing them on the computer when I work on them, just partly because it's handy, it's easy. But I noticed that I was doing something like there was a line, and I edited the line and I changed it, and I thought, well, that's interesting because now that previous line no longer exists. And whereas in a notebook, you would have like your literal like scoring a line through and changing it, and I think that's part of the history, because sometimes you go back as well and want to realize your original intention was better, and so I'm maybe a bit more wary of working on the word processor as a result.
It is easy to get along as a band. You are a band with a long history right now.
Yeah.
It is easy to be on tour and to be friends and don't have any kind of quarrels with all the tensions of a tour.
I think it is for us now. I think, well, certainly for me and Bob, we know each other well enough now to know when to leave each other alone and when to hang out. You know, that's it wasn't high. It wasn't easy. It wasn't always easy, was it?
No, I think that's part of the work of being in a band. You know, that's the hardest bit to make work well. I know that's maybe where a lot of bands fall down as well.
I think my time is running out. So I have one last question.
Okay.
It's a bit. Like I told you, we see about 3 years ago. How do you see yourself in about 5 years?
I don't know. I don't really plan that far ahead.
No, I can't really think. Well, I'd like to like invoke the great Mitch Hedberg here as well and say we'd love to come back and celebrate the anniversary of you asking that question in 5 years' time.
It's a date. It's a compromise.
All right, let's do that.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to speak with you.
Great.
It
cheers.
was, yeah, nice to speak with you again. Yeah.